In today's lesson, I'm going to go over how to add images to your website. We're going to talk about styles, so that's how you can change colors and fonts and all those kinds of fun things. And basically to make your website a bit more beautiful. So last time we talked about HTML and how that can structure your website. Today we're going to talk about how to make it nicer looking. So adding colors and things like that, and adding images to make it look nice. All right. So starting with Google Classroom again, I just want to show you this PDF right here. If you open it up, you'll see another reference sheet. This time it's for different types of styles. So in terms of beautifying your website, we have to talk about something called CSS, which is called Cascading Style Sheets. That's what it stands for. And these are all the different CSS properties that you can mess around with. You can see here font family, font size, different sorts of colors, changing borders, changing backgrounds, that kind of stuff. All right, so the reference sheet will be attached on Google Classroom for you to play around with. Hopefully you had fun playing around with HTML last time. Now we're going to just add to that. Let's go back to Replit here. I already have a Replit opened up. So you can see here, this is, I don't know if you're going to see the same thing. This is kind of the teacher view. But I'm going to go to My REPLs and then create a new REPL. And the language will be HTML, CSS, and not JavaScript, but that's related to this as well. And we'll give it a name. Last time we talked about Ninja Turtles. Today we're going to talk about Marvel. So we're going to create a website based on Marvel characters. So again, we've got all the basic skeleton. Again, we're going to delete this JS file because we don't really need to talk about that. And we're going to make use of this CSS file today. And you may have been staring at that before. Why do we have this empty file here? Well, it's for adding styles. So colors, fonts, things like that, that gets represented in this file as separate from the tags. So let's touch this up a little bit. Let's change two things to start off with. The title, and I'm going to call this Marvel Characters. And then in the body, I'm just going to get rid of this link to a JavaScript, which we no longer have. Okay, so if you remember, last time we started typing stuff in the body. Anything that you type in the body will show up. So if there's nothing in the body, when you run this, nothing will show up. So in the body, I'm going to start off by putting a heading 1 and typing in between those, the start and end tags there. I'm going to type in Marvel Characters. And now you're going to see that appear on your web page. Okay. And so part of what we're going to be talking about today is how you add images. So let me add a bit of text first. I'm just going to say my favorite Marvel character is Wolverine. And remember, anytime you wanted to add a line or drop down to the next line, you add a break tag. Other characters I like are and let me just show you how to make a list. There's two types of lists. You can make an ordered list or an unordered list. So it's just OL or UL. Ordered means it'll actually automatically number it. Unordered means it's just going to add bullets. So I think I'm going to make an ordered list here. OL. Remember, you always have to end it off. And the way these list items work, and you can look this up online, anytime you want to figure out, oh, how did they do that on the website? You either go to the website and right-click View Page Source and see if you can figure out what that part is and actually use it, or you can look up a tutorial. In this case, an ordered list, we have to have a bunch of li tags. These are list item tags. And so each one of these list items is going to be a name of a character. So let's see. Black Widow, Captain America, and Iron Man. Okay, so if I run this, you can see here's my ordered list. You can see it automatically numbered each of these. If you did more, that'll just go into the next number. If I had put unordered list, instead of an O, I put U, UL for both of these, then these would be bullets, and you can try that. All right. We already went over how to create a link last time. I'm going to jump right into adding images. So let's look for a good image first of all. So I'm going to look for an image of my favorite character. Let's say Wolverine. Oops, spelt it wrong. Let's look for another site here. Haha. Wolverine, let's type in Marvel. James Howlett. Okay. So I'm going to... Okay, so that's a good website. What am I doing? I'm looking for an image though. So when you're looking for an image, you have to obviously, let's click on this, click on images. And you have a number of different options in Google Images, but the most important thing for you guys, if you're publishing a website, is to make sure the image doesn't have copyright attached. So in order to do that, we're going to click on Tools, click on Usage Rights, and you see that there's a number of different options here. We're going to make sure it's labeled for use, reuse at least. And if you're going to modify it, even cropping it, changing the colors in Photoshop or whatever, make sure you choose this one here, labeled for reuse with modification. You can't just pick any image because Google's a search engine, so it searches even copyrighted images. So you can't just take those and use them on your website. So we're going to choose to label for reuse. Okay. And so you may find a few images here that you're interested in. Unfortunately, not a lot of the Marvel ones are free from copyright, obviously. So sometimes you have to draw your own or take your own photos. So let's see. This one's decent. Okay, so I've got an image of the Wolverine here. I'm going to right click on this and save image as. So one of the important things is when you save an image, am I in the right place here? Downloads. When you save an image, look at the file name. Okay, that's a ridiculous file name. You don't want to leave it like that because you have to actually type in the file name when you put in an image tag to show the image. So we're going to delete that file name, and I can see here it's a JPEG, so we have to add that ending to it as well. Typically your ending will show up, you don't have to change it, so I would just leave the ending alone. If it's JPEG, keep it as a JPEG. If it's a GIF, keep it as a GIF. PNG, keep it as a PNG. Don't change the endings. Unless, like in this case, I think in Mac, they will add the ending for you. So it's not a big deal, but I'm just going to add the ending just to show you. I'm going to call this wolverine.jpg. Okay, that's a much better name than 00117, whatever it is. So I'm going to hit save. All right, let's look for another image that I'm going to use later on of, let's say, Iron Man. So if I'm looking for an image of Iron Man, let me just go back to Classroom. You can see here I've linked this website called Unsplash. It's a really good website with really nice images. So I'm not sure if I can find Iron Man on here though. If not, then we'll just go back to, oh, that's pretty cool. The nice thing about Unsplash is they're high quality photographic images taken by photographers that are made for you to use. And typically when you click on it to download, and there's a download button here, it'll actually tell you attribution is appreciated. And if you copy this, you can add this to your website and give attribution. Attribution just means give the photographer credit. Okay? So it just downloaded to, unfortunately, it just downloaded to some random place. I think by default it went into my downloads, so let me take a look. Right. So it didn't really give me a chance to rename it. But that's what I'm going to do now. Downloads. There it is. I'm going to drag that into images. I keep everything in one folder just so I know where everything is. And I'm going to rename this and call this Iron Man. All right, so now that I have the two images that I want, one of them was from Google, one of them was from Unsplash. I made sure that these are free from copyright. If you go to Replit, you need to actually drag these images from your desktop or from your whatever folder you downloaded the images to onto here. Okay, so now that I have my images here, you can see them. Okay, so I'm going to find a way to add these images to my website. And to do that, I'm going to put a break here after the list, and now I'm going to put an image tag. And remember, if Replit helps you out by auto completion, then you just press tab to complete it. After an equal sign should always be quotes. Inside these quotes, you're just going to type in the name or the file name of that image, and it's right here. So you should just be able to type that out. There we have it. Now you'll see this image is quite large, well, that's actually not too bad. We'll just leave that one. I was just going to say, if you wanted to actually resize it, you'd probably go into Photoshop and crop it or resize it using the image sizing tools there. Okay, so I'm also going to add the Iron Man image to here. So before I do that, I'm going to add a break. If I don't put a break, then Iron Man's just going to be beside Wolverine up to the point where the web page is too wide, and then it'll just drop down to the next row. So this forces it down to the next row by adding a break. Okay, I'm going to type ironman.jpg and run. And there's my Iron Man, and this one is super huge. And we don't want it this big because you can imagine this website experience here. That's not great. So what I'm going to do, you can go and edit that file in Photoshop to resize it. Or, and this is kind of an easier way to do it, but it's recommended that you actually resize the image, because what will happen is that this image is so huge it takes time to load. Even if you resize it here, which is what I'm going to do, the image will take the same amount of time because it's the same amount of data. So this is your simpler way to resize it, but you're not actually resizing it. So in the image tag, you type width equals and figure out what your maximum width is. So I'm going to say 500 pixels and see what happens. Okay, and that's much smaller. Let's change it to 800 pixels. That's better. Might as well make Wolverine the same. Then it looks a bit more uniform. There we go. So that's how you add images. This is the image tag, but you have to make sure your images are actually here, because if I made reference to wolverine.jpg and I never dragged it here, then it's not going to know where that is. It's, you have to have those files in here, and you just get them there by dragging them from your downloads folder. Okay, let's talk about styles. First of all, it's nice that Replit actually added this line 7. This is a link tag, and this is what gets this index.html page to link to your style.css page. So it says link href equals styles.style.css, rel equals style sheet, type equals text/css. This is all standard stuff that you use for any link tag, but this is the actual CSS file. What have you named it? In this case, they created one for you and named it style.css. You could have called it marvel.css, or you could have multiple different ones, but this one's called style.css. So without this link tag, there's no way any of the styles like font colors and things like that would ever come onto this web page, because it's not linked. So it'll just be this default black on white. So if we do want styles, we have to have this link tag. So now let's go over to the style sheet, and we're going to add some styles. So basically styles work this way. For any tag that you have in your HTML, you can add styles to it. If I want to change all of the font colors in the body, I can reference the body tag and change the font colors. If I just want to change the font size for the H1 tags, any H1 tag on this web page, I would reference H1. Same thing with OL. Any of these tags you can change the styles for. So if I go to style.css, I want to change something to do with the body. I type in body, and you guys should try this too. And then curly brackets, which are beside the letter P on your keyboard. You have to hold Shift to get the curly bracket. Be careful though, this is an open curly bracket here after the word body, and there's a closed curly bracket here. Okay, and any style that I type in here will be applied to the body. So let's type in background color. Okay, so you can make use of the reference sheet that I gave you that's linked to Google Classroom, or sometimes just browsing through all of these different styles really helps too. So what does this do? What does that do? I don't even know because I've never used those, but it's worth exploring. Background image. We're just going to go with background color. And you can see the syntax, or the syntax means the way you type it out, is background dash color, and it's American spelling, colon, and make sure that colon's there. And then you can type in whatever color you want, like let's say red. At the end of each line, make sure you put a semicolon to end it off. Okay? And because the style sheet is linked to the index file, the web page itself, it's going to take on whatever styles you told it to take on. All right. There are tons of different colors you can change this to. If you start off by typing in red or whatever color, if you hover over the color, you can actually customize this to whatever color you want. So you can adjust these two things until you get the right color, and you can even click on different parts of this palette here. Okay, and these are custom color codes that you see. Now, let's say we're still in the body. In the body, I want to change the font family. That's basically the type of font. And if I can think of some types of fonts, Tahoma, so let's hit run. You can see that it's changed the font to Tahoma. Oops. Okay. What about the color of the font? Color of the font is COLOR, American spelling. So when you type color, that represents the color of the font. So there's all these different colors, but I'm going to go with that and then change it to what looks good on blue. Let's go with this color, hot pink, and then end it off with a semicolon. Okay, so that's for the body tag. Let's say I want to change heading 1. So I'm going to change the heading 1 tag. Remember this title here, Marvel Characters, that is in H1. I can go back to the index page. You can see Marvel Characters, that's surrounded by H1. So whatever I change here will only be for that piece of text that's surrounded by the H1 tags. So let's say I want this font color to be green. You can see that only whatever was surrounded by H1, and you could have multiple things that are surrounded by H1. Whatever is surrounded by H1 becomes green. Let's mess around with font size. 400 pixels, let's say. Now that is a bit crazy, but that's 400 pixels. Each letter is 400 pixels wide. So let's do something a bit more reasonable. Let's make this 50 pixels. So that's about right. Okay. So of course there's a bunch of other styles here that we can use, but you can go into your reference and take a look at what you want to change and play around with that. Okay, so we talked about images, and we talked about styles, image tags, how to add those, CSS, how to link your index file to your style sheet, and some basic styles. So I want you to go and play around with this web page. You can even use the previous one that you did on the turtles, the one that you messed around with, add some images to it, and see if you can add different styles to make it look nicer. Have fun!